Welcome back, baseball fans. The 1971-74 Carryover League. Another off-season look at the stats in a spreadsheet for the draft that happens in March of 2023. Looking at the 2560, which of course is the 2,560 eligible cards from the years of 1971 to 74 in Strat-O-Matic for the draft. Not all 2560, of course, are eligible. But we have taken a look at half of the 32 teams alphabetically to this point, finishing off with the Dodgers in the last time. And so we're going to do another 8 teams tonight, and we're going to start by looking at Las Vegas, an expansion team that won a division, in a division where all expansion teams are in it. But Arizona and Colorado, since they actually are, how do I say this? They're realistic baseball teams. They, of course, didn't play in this era either. Those teams usually get better players than the truly fictional baseball towns of Las Vegas and Portland, at least in the Major League level. But anyway, Las Vegas has done some nice things in the last few years. So we had finished with the Dodgers, and so for Vegas, you have 12 code C's. So this column here, you can see the coding. A C means a carry-on player, means an active player. This is, of course, the team he's on. And over here in column A means that he has been taken by that team, which is obvious, since I just said these are all carry-on players. And this is 1 to 12. And this says the year and the player chosen from that year. And what we've done is we start at player 3 and go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the year 71, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 3, 4. The reason we start at 3 is that in the draft we're going to take 1 and 2 in the 8 rounds of the draft. So it just makes it easier once everything is all done to see 1 to 8 for the first year, and 1 to 6, 1 to 4, 1 to 2, so forth. So after you see these green guys here, this lighter shade of green are the same names up here, but if you want to replace a player with a different card in the 4-year set, you can look at the data here. And there's a separate analysis done of that I did earlier in the off season, in which I denoted in this grid box here, if any of your carry-on guys, and there's a dozen for each team, have a particularly good year to improve your current players. And we saw with the Dodgers already have Joe Ferguson and Steve Garvey. They get in 71. They get a lot better in 73 and 74, so they might improve those guys. Which means that they don't actually draft a new player to the roster. They're just improving internally, and they're going to have to replace that vacant roster spot with an undrafted free agent later in the draft process. Vegas does not have a current player on the roster that gets significantly better. They're all playing pretty much at the capacity. In previous years, though, they did a lot of improvement to this roster. So that's probably why now they don't have anybody left to improve. So none of these guys will probably be taken in the first round. So that means their 4 keepers are Ed Brinkman, Ray Culp, Wes Parker, and Aurelio Rodriguez. Most of these guys are known for defense, not offense. Most have been Gold Glovers or ones with range at their position. Brinkman is a surprisingly interesting player in that in 72, he finished top 10 MVP votes with a .203 batting average and a .538 OPS. That's how much the MVP voters thought his defense helped the Tigers in winning the American League East in 72. He's a 188 at shortstop. Ray Culp's got a good 71. He's still got a 3.60 ERA and pitches on 3 days rest. Then he kind of struggles after that. Wes Parker's seasons in 71 and 72 are about the same. Great glove at first base and in the outfield. Decent batting average, but not much power. And Aurelio Rodriguez, also known for his glove. frankly, none of these guys scream first round pick. We also have a couple guys they put on waivers, John Bacabella and Tom Dukes. So if none of the current players or their keepers look attractive for first round picks, we would go and take a peek at their rookie classes. The remaining class, half of a class from 73 and a full class of 74. In 73, they got Ben Ogilvy, Dick Sharon, Milt Wilcox. None of those guys are ready yet. They would be, in the cases of Ogilvy and Wilcox, they'll be ready later in the decade. The 74 Vegas guys. Here we are. More players, of course, in the untouched box. You have Juan Beniquez, Kurt Bevacqua, Barry Foote, Jim Wolford, Dennis Blair, John Montague. Let's start with the pitchers. Blair and Montague are both interesting pitchers. One's a starter, one's a reliever, and they both pitch pretty well. Montague a 3.16 ERA, Blair 3.27. Definitely enough talent to get into the league. First round pick? I'm not exactly sure. And as far as these hitters go, they are all good utility players and get a lot better with the bat later in the decade. Wolford hits close to 300. We know Bevacqua hits 333 and 77. Barry Foote has a lot of power for the Cubs later on. Beniquez, great defensive player. Again, not first round pick material. So Vegas kind of has a hole here. I'm not sure what they're going to do for the first round in this draft. Unless they go after, they say Wes Parker is their first round pick, which is fine. He mostly looks like a second round pick, though. He's a 279 hitting first baseman with 4 home runs. So we'll see. Maybe they actually trade for a guy in the draft. All right, next up, Milwaukee. There are 12 guys here. Let's take a look at, see if any of those 12 get significantly better. We look in this box here. If I highlighted anything, I did not. So these are those guys, and let's go look at your keepers. You have Jesus Alou, Jim Fregosi, Ken Sanders, George Scott. Well, Scott can definitely be a first-round pick. This is kind of the wheelhouse of his career here. He's an outstanding first baseman, by the way, a 1 in all years. Over 20 homers in 3 of those years, and a 306 batting average in 73. That 73 performance, a 1, 24 homers, and a 306 average, is first-round material. So we could stop there, but might as well, Ken Sanders has a decent year closing. Alou and Fregosi are okay, but declining from where they have been. We could take a peek at the rookies for Milwaukee, starting in 73. You have Kurt Bevacqua, who, interestingly, he's also a rookie in the 74 Vegas team, if you noticed. Because the player was drafted in separate seasons as an extra player, and a rookie who hasn't been in the league yet. So there's kind of a race to see who wins Kurt Bevacqua first, if there is such a thing. But Milwaukee could take his 73 card with the rights to it. Vegas could take him in 74 with the rights to it. They also have Pedro Garcia, Tim Johnson, Bill Sharp, Gorman Thomas, Bill Champion. Of those, Bill Sharp's got the best ready bat. He's got a 276 and a 754 OPS. Bill Champion is okay as a relief starter. Okay, nothing special. In their 74 class, you'll notice that Bevacqua won't be here anymore, because Bevacqua, we saw, is there with Vegas. So in 74, they have more. Bob Coluscio, you have Garcia, Tim Johnson again, Charlie Moore, Bill Sharp again, Robin Yount, Bill Champion, Kevin Cabell, Slayton, and Travers. Let's start with Yount. So he hit 250 with 3 home runs and a 622 OPS. He is Robin Yount. Yeah, you can get the card in the league just to get him in there as an 18-year-old kid, because he played a lot for the Brewers, but I don't think you make him a first-round pick. I mean, the idea is it's BPA. The rules are you're supposed to do best player available and not sandbag talented guys in the later, or hide guys in the later rounds of the draft. That's sort of like since I'm drafting for all these 32 teams, I kind of have to keep that in mind as I do this process. Slayton's very good, 3.92 ERA and 250 innings. But the answer is George Scott. George Scott will most likely be the first-round pick of the Milwaukee Brewers. Next up, the Twins. Minnesota Twins. Any of their 12 guys get better? Tom Murphy, from a starter, I think he's a good reliever in 74, and George Mitterwald is a nice 73. Let's take a look at the numbers a little closer. So we can go down here and look at Tom Murphy and see what's the big attraction with him. Up here, excuse me, Tom Murphy, and it was 74. Oh, he's got a 1.90 ERA and a 1.20 WHIP, but he is exclusively a reliever. So he goes from a middling starting pitcher to a dynamite reliever potential closer. That's nice. And what about Mitterwald in 73? Mitterwald goes into a 259, 731 OPS year with 16 home runs. Might be his career high. Yeah, that's nice. Not first round material though. This is another no-brainer because Rod Carew's in here. The keepers are Carew, Killebrew, Roof, and Williams. I'm just going to stop right here because I don't even want to look at the rookies. Rod Carew, if you hit 333, you want to get a Rod Carew hitting 333 if you can. So in the first 2 years, he only hits 307 and 318, and you're thinking, I don't know about that. But then lo and behold, in 73 and 74, he hits 350 and 364. How about that, sports fans? So you got your choice, which Carew. And the 351 is a 2 at second base. The 364 is a 4 at second base. I think we know which one we're going to take. Let's keep going. Some of these, on the obvious ones, I don't want to spend a lot of time. The Mets are next. Mets are definitely in the World Series window, by the way. They have a nice Cy Acosta card, who's a reliever, getting better in 73. But that still won't be enough to be a first-round pick. The keepers are Garrett, Gentry, Jerry Grody, and Willie Mays. Now, Garrett's got a nice card in here. I think it's the 73 card. Because he can hit lefties with power and righties. That's the best year for Garrett. Gentry's got a good 71. He can pitch on 3 days rest. Grody, we want the -2 arm, which happens to be in the year of 73. We don't want his 0 arm. But Willie Mays is your Hall of Famer, and he's got one more monster season left in him in the year of 71. It would have been with the Giants, but the Mets made that trade much sooner than it needed to be made because they coveted him so highly. 907 OPS for Willie Mays in 71. That would have to be your first round pick, but because these are the Mets and they had John Matlack as a first round pick as a rookie a few years ago, we have to do our due diligence and take a peek. 73, it's Harry Parker, and that's it. That's because their minor league system was rated. They only have Harry Parker left. He's a very good reliever. 335 ERA and 96 innings. Nice year, Harry Parker. He'll probably get in the league. And then 74, the Mets have, we got about 5 guys here. Lee Lacy, John Milner, George Theodore, Bob Apotica, Harry Parker again. So if you need relief help, Apotica and Parker can both do the job. And Milner is a decent first baseman. He's got a 576 plate appearances with 20 home runs and a 252 batting average. That's worthy of getting into the league if you don't already have Ed Kranepool, who's kind of blocking him as a left-handed first baseman. And they lost Don Clendenon, a right-handed first baseman. So anyway, all this to say that Willie Mays will be their first-round pick. All right, the Yankees. Let's see if their dozen get better. No, none of the Yankee dozen get better. And the Yankees are in this era from 71, 70 to 74 of just hovering around 500. Though their carryover league teams are often better than that. An interesting class of keepers: Elliot Maddox, Lindy McDaniel, Fritz Peterson, and Roy White. Now, we want repeat performances from McDaniel, Peterson, and White. What does that mean? It means McDaniel is a top-notch reliever, should have a good year in one of the 4. Peterson, the lefty starter, should pitch on 3 days rest. Roy White should be a switch hitter with walks and a little bit of power and no throwing arm. And that's pretty much what all those guys do. Elliot Maddox is the interesting acquisition because in 74, Elliot Maddox gets MVP votes. We talked about Ed Brinkman earlier as a strange MVP candidate. Elliot Maddox had top 10 in MVP votes in 74 with a .303 average, stellar defense in the outfield, and yeah, I don't know why well, somebody voted for him. So yeah, he got MVP votes. That's a nice player. Could be a first-round pick, I suppose, because of the MVP votes. But does McDaniel have another stellar year in him? Yes. He's got 72 with a 2.25 ERA. Does Fritz Peterson have one stellar year in him? Yes. He's got 71 and 72, pitching on 3 days rest with an ERA around 3 and a 15 and 17 game winner. And then how about Roy White? And Roy White, the answer is yes. 19 homers and a 292 average, 388 on base, 857 OPS, and 71. So the Yankees have this covered. They can pick whoever they want. We'll take a peek at the rookies. Bloomberg's not going to be here. He's already on the team. Your 73, the last Yankee. Oh, a good one. Doc Medich. Hey, there's a surprise first round pick possible. 14 and 9, 295 ERA, 235 innings. Yankees got some talent here. That's what I was saying. They play this carryover league much better in this era than they did in traditional Major League Baseball. Their only problem is they have to beat the Orioles and the Red Sox. In 74, the Yankees have Rick Dempsey, Glenn Abbott, and another Doc Medich card. That's about the same. 131 whip in 74. Might as well compare them to 73. Medich, 124. 73 is a little bit better. So 73 Medich would be the rookie choice if you don't go with one of those keepers. All right, next team up for bids. We did the L's, the M's, the N's. We got some O's coming up here. We have Oakland. 3 more teams that are tonight. We'll do Oakland, Ohio, and then the Phillies, and we'll call it. So the A's, the great Oakland A's, are in their dynasty time. 72, 3, and 4. Oh my goodness. Do any of their current players get better? It wouldn't surprise me if none did, but Dick Green in 72 and Bob Locker in 72. And you know what? I've kind of done this analysis, and by looking at the cards, and I wasn't impressed. I'll probably be impressed by the stats. Let's look at Dick Green. So Dick Green hits 286. Okay, great. But he's also a 330 at second base. No. I don't want that. I want Dick Green to be a 2E8 or 2E whatever at second base and be scrappy Dick Green. So I think I'm going to leave him alone. And Locker, his current card, has a 286 ERA, a 120 whip, and he's a righty who gets lefties out. The suggested improvement for Locker is a 265 ERA in 72 with a 109 whip, but unfortunately it's just the opposite. He dominates righties and lefties tag him. The problem with that is you got Raleigh Fingers as your righty who gets righties out. So right as it currently is constituted, the Locker and Fingers complement each other. If you switch to a different version of Bob Locker's performance, things get all screwed up, and now neither guy can get lefties out with any regularity. But here's your big picks. Campaneris and Bando, Orlando Cepeda acquired from the Phillies, and Gene Tennis. So Bando's years are all good except for 72. 873 OPS and 73. Campaneris, we want his defense to be a 2, and that, interestingly, maybe this is kind of important. So Campaneris' defense was poor in 70, and it hurt the A's ultimately in Game 6 and 7 of the World Series when he blew some chances defensively at the end of those games. He was a 3. He's a 3 in 71. During the dynasty, he's a 2 at short. Isn't that funny? That was the big reason why they won 3 straight World Series, because Campaneris' defense improved from a 3 to a 2. There you go. I've just figured it out, folks. Nah. But the 74 Campaneris also brings a 290 batting average and a 713 OPS. So Bando or Campaneris, you got Orlando Cepeda. Even when he transferred to a designated hitter, he could still hit for 3 of these years. 276, 298, 289. And tennis, you know, he didn't go to an all-star game during this timeline. I don't remember that. But he's got a really nice year in 73, 259 with 100 walks. So a traditional Oakland player of that bunch might be the first-round pick. The 73 rookies, Vic Harris, Jim Howarth, not so much. And 74, they have more. Vic Harris again, Bill North, Claudel Washington, and Jim Todd. By the way, Bill North also was also selected in the expansion draft by Seattle. So Seattle or Oakland is going to get Bill North this year, and whoever calls it in first gets him. So that could be interesting. If I'm Seattle, I would prioritize making Bill North your first-round pick so that the A's don't get him. Because Bill North's 73 year, let's take a look at that, by the way. It should be up here in the expansion draft for Seattle. They got a 73 Bill North. There it is. So 73 Bill North, 285. Seattle should grab that while you can, because you're trying to compete with the dynasty A's. So you got no shot otherwise. And 74 Bill North, he's down to 260. Same defense. But in any event, Seattle should just strategically go for Bill North before the A's get him. Claudel Washington is okay, but you can just see a traditional Oakland player being the first-round pick. Next up, expansion Ohio players in the American League. There are a dozen guys. Daryl Thomas gets better in 74, but I hope he gets better because he really disappoints with his present card. And it's not a significant improvement, and he can't play short anymore. Well, he can. He's a 4.33. He has 247. Presently, he's hitting 230. That's not significant enough. Dave Cash, Tom Hall, Elrod Hendricks, Roberto Pena. Cash should have a good year in one of these four. He hits 300 in 1974. I think that's your first round pick. Tom Hall has a good year. Former Cincinnati pitcher out of the bullpen. Oh, he's 10-1 in 72 with a 2.61 ERA. Tom Hall, Dave Cash, one of those guys. Let's take a peek at their rookies. And again, expansion teams' rookies are very weak normally. George Hendrick, yeah, that could be a nice pick. 268 hitter. I think he did that with Cleveland, either Oakland or Cleveland. Jim Panther and Dave Sells. In 74, they might have his rights again, because I don't know if Cleveland ever gets Hendrick's rights. Cleveland gets a ton of outfielders anyway. They also have Oscar Gamble and Charlie Spikes, so they're not hurting for outfield help. 74 Ohio team. Here we are. Enos Cabell, he's not that good. George Hendrick again, 279. That's good. Larry Milbourne has a nice year. Larry DeMary and John Moreland. So it's either George Hendrick as a rookie in 74 or Dave Cash, or they could be first and second round picks, I suppose. All right, one more team tonight, and we'll call it, and that would be the Phillies. The team who's first on the clock. So now we're at the point where we're looking at the first overall pick in the draft, because we know Philadelphia has it, and we're only getting to this analysis now because of the alphabet. So I'll go through the process of at least looking through their carry-on guys. And yeah, Bo's batting average gets better in 74. Denny Doyle's does as well in 73. And Luzinski gets more power in 73 than he presently has. That's all great and wonderful. Let's go take a look at the keeper list. Johnny Callison has one more good year left. Barry Lersch is decent pitcher. Tim McCarver is McCarver. Good contact hitting catcher. And Tony Taylor. But I think it's got to be Schmidt. We got to go with a rookie Schmidt and not in 73, of course. 73. Here we go. Bob Boone, Tom Hutton, Ron Lolich, Mike Rogodinsky, Mike Schmidt, Jim Lonborg, and Dick Ruthven. A lot of good Phillies, and a lot of guys who are going to be Phillies in the future. Now, Schmidt, in what would be his rookie year, hit 196 with a 697 OPS. So, no, that doesn't warrant a first-round pick. No, sir. So let's go to 74 and see if he has competition with what he does. Maybe Gary Maddox, if he's here, though he might still be in San Francisco. You have Bob Boone again, Larry Haney, Tom Hutton, Mike Schmidt, Gene Garber, Jim Lonborg, Dick Ruthven, and Ron Schuler. Lonborg gets better. 3.21 ERA in 283 innings. That should be drafted. Gene Garber gets better. 2.06 ERA. But the pick, and the first overall pick in the draft, I think it's going to be a rookie third baseman who hits 36 home runs with a 941 OPS. And that's 1974 Mike Schmidt. That's no-brainer. And I'm always looking to get a Hall of Famer or a perennial All-Star with the first pick in the draft every year. In previous years, it's been Nolan Ryan. It's been Frank Robinson. Do I have who it was last year? Oh, let's see. So 2 years ago, Nolan Ryan was the first pick. Do I have, where's last year's draft? And last year was Frank Robinson. So that's the last two drafts. So this year, the Phillies are picking first, and I'm thinking, yeah, Mike Schmidt will be the first pick in the draft. Interestingly, Schmidt, George Brett, Robin Yount, all could get into the league this year. Schmidt is obviously playing at that all-star level. Brett's numbers are decent, 282. Decent numbers. And when you saw Yount's numbers, they're just okay. A 250 hitting shortstop with 3 home runs and a 3.31 defensively. Good enough to get into the league, but Schmidt's performance is definitely better than those other guys. All right, so we're going to pause here tonight. That's a nice little finish, knowing who the first overall pick will be in the draft. It's something that in the NFL, a lot of the offseason is spent on, and then sometimes it's obvious. Once in a while, the guy signs with that team, drafting him number 1. I think the Miami Dolphins had a tackle they signed before the draft with the first pick in the draft. Tackle out of Michigan. I can't remember his name, but that's a football question. This is about baseball, so. All right, folks, that's it for tonight. Thanks for checking out the best of the 2,560 player series. We'll continue this next Tuesday with a final 8 teams. We'll see you then.